Hey there, I'm Ian Douglas. I'm the author of the website techinterview.guide, and I'm here to help people with career advancement and interview preparation. My live stream on Twitch covers topics such as company research, how to build resumes and cover letters, applying for the job, getting through interviews, and what to do during negotiations. I've coached thousands and thousands of people over the years to get jobs at the biggest tech companies in the industry, and I'm here to help you too. The following episode is taken from a longer live stream event and may contain interactions with other people in chat. Check out the end of the episode for more information. Let's get to it. We had another anonymous question come in chat that said, can you tell me about a time when a lack of teamwork hindered a project? How did you address the situation? If a team member was disengaged, what would you do to motivate them? This is kind of a mix of behavioral question as well as management question. So if I was doing a manager interview, if I was interviewing someone for a management position, I might ask something like this. From a teammate perspective, there are ways that you can sort of see that, a teammate has been kind of disengaged, or, maybe they're kind of zoning out, or maybe it could be anything from burnout to just disinterest in what they're doing, disinterest in the job. As a manager, my job is to kind of interact with my team on a regular enough basis and keep them engaged to know when they're starting to disengage. When I would do one-on-ones with my team, I always offered, we'll do it weekly at most. We'll do it every other week at best. And if you need to delay it by a week, then I will only delay it a week at most. And so worst case scenario, you would only meet with me every 3 weeks. Best case, it was every other week. And if you needed more meeting time, or if I felt that we needed more meeting time, we would do it weekly. As a manager, then my job is to ask, how do you like working on what you're working on? You need to be honest with me. If you'd rather be working on something else, it's my job to find you that opportunity. If I can make that opportunity happen, I'm going to make it happen. If I can't make it happen, I'll figure out how can we transfer you to another team if you want to stay at the company. If you don't want to stay at the company, how can I help you leave so that, we have the best people on the team that are always engaged? I wouldn't word it that way, but I would always make sure that the first kind of couple of meetings that I would have with my team, that I was really clear about, these are my expectations. When we give you things to do, we expect them to be done and done to the best of your ability. And if you feel like you need to take a break, like you need some time off to kind of recharge a little bit, absolutely. The best piece of advice I heard, and this actually came through over the pandemic, was don't take time off to recover from burnout. Take time off to prevent burnout. And I think that was really wise. And so I've been sharing that advice since I saw it. As a manager, I would try to encourage my teams to do the same and say, hey, make sure you're taking time off. Don't wait until you're too tired to work to then have to recover. But as a manager, I've had a couple of management roles, a couple of director level roles. I think it's important to make sure that you're leading the team with empathy, that you're also leading from the front, where you're not just telling them go do this, go do this, go do this. You need to be willing to show them how to do it. And so having technical skill can really help kind of build that camaraderie and build that sort of trust between you as a manager and your team to know that they can trust your input and so on. Having been in the industry then, for a long time, folks can look over my history and go, okay, you've been doing this a minute. You've probably got thoughts and ideas. Now, I may be out of touch, I may be out of date on some things, and so I need to rely on my team to help educate me as well. And so sometimes these one-on-one meetings, I would say hey, can you explain how this works so that I have a better understanding myself? That also helps with engagement, knowing that they can share that knowledge. And sometimes during those one-on-ones, I'd be like, hey, that was really great information. Could we do an afternoon kind of thing? I wouldn't do it as a lunch and learn thing anymore. Because I believe it's important for people to actually take a lunch break and leave the building and go find something else to do and disengage from work for at least a little while during the day to also recharge. But I would say hey, this is important to share with the rest of the team. Can we set up a time where you can share that knowledge with the team and just make sure everybody's on the same page, or coordinate with a couple of other people and share that out at a larger scale? Because I'm a huge believer in sharing of knowledge. The whole tag that I've got on this tech interview guide is share what you know and we all win. And I really embodied that as a manager. And that can also really help with engagement, because when you have teams that are willing to share that knowledge, the team is going to do better together. We help grow each other. We help kind of level everybody else up to where we are. And it makes the whole team better, more productive, more effective. And then guess what? You're not going to have to worry as much about engagement, because the team knows that no matter what, the rest of the team's got their back. If something comes up, I'm going to cover your work because I know what you do. I know how to do your job now that you've shared that knowledge. I know that I can fill in for you so you can go take a vacation if you need to. The worst thing in an organization is where somebody's got some amount of what we call domain knowledge. They're the only one on the team that knows how to do a thing, and they feel like they can never take time off because they're the only one that can do the thing. I've been that person on the team, and it was a horrible experience. That's actually where I got all my gray hair. I joke about it, but that's where I got all my gray hair. I worked like 90 hours a week for 13 months straight at a startup because my managers wouldn't hire anybody else to help me with my part of the code. And so I was constantly stressed out. And when I finally burned out and left that job, within like a year, all my hair turned gray because the stress of that job just like took it out of me. So it can be very physically and emotionally draining, as well as mentally draining. And so you have to have a team where you're sharing that knowledge where people can kind of cover for one another. It's really, really important. And so I'm seeing stuff go by in chat. Like I try to pick up in tech, whatever, to get the job done. I think that that's great, but then you also need to share that knowledge with other people. I think it's important to share that knowledge with one another so that you're not the only one that knows a thing. I think that it's also really helpful just from a team perspective, and as a manager, that does help with engagement. And now I can reward you for sharing that as well. Like, you know, as a manager, we've got ways of rewarding you, whether it's extra time off or a bonus or something like that. Like we've got some wiggle room of like how we can thank you at a professional level for, you know, helping build the team and make the team better. And I would rather do that and keep people engaged. Now, if you're completely disengaged and you're not happy at all with what we do or with the company, I would rather you leave the team so that we have people on the team that are actually engaged and they want to be working on this kind of stuff. And so again, my job as the manager is to figure out, what do you want to work on? I've moved people from, you know, across the team, like, oh, you don't want to do as much back end, you want to do more middleware, or, oh, you want to go explore the front end. Okay, well, I really need your strength on the back end, but maybe like a couple of days a week, or like, you know, maybe this next story in the agile sort of workflow that we're doing, like maybe you could work on this with someone else, you know, where you're like pair programming on something. So you're learning their skill and sort of transferring that knowledge a little bit. And let me know if you actually like that, because you might think you want to do front end. Try it for a little while, see if you actually like it. And if you want to transition, great. I'll see if somebody else wants to transition to fill on the back end. And if not, I need to figure out whether I can hire somebody to fill in for you. That's my job as a manager. That's not up to you to worry about, like, is there going to be someone else to fill my shoes? That's my job as your manager, if I'm a good manager. That's also a thing too. You might have a really rotten manager that doesn't want you to leave the team. In fact, I was just reading this morning on Twitter about like some of Amazon's management principles of like how managers could put you on like this performance improvement plan so that you can't transfer teams, because while they put you on this improvement plan, you're not allowed to transfer anywhere else. And so sometimes managers would put you on that plan just to keep you on their team because they don't want to lose a good person. That's a rotten way of being a manager, but it's also rotten because that was the company policy. That was the company practice. Every company's a little bit different. I really hope and trust that all of you end up with really great managers in tech. It's not always going to be a possibility, but I hope that a lot of you do. Just want to go back through chat and see if I missed any other context on that message, or if there were other sort of follow-ups on here. This is very true. You don't want to find your burnout limit, then it's too late and you're gone. Yeah, exactly. So you do have to be really careful about that. And that's also something that's important for me as a manager, is to recognize when people are burning out. It's my job to make sure that that team is balanced enough that my team doesn't actually burn out. That's going to be super important as well. But again, as a manager, I have to pay attention to those kinds of things. It's not always going to be a possibility, you know, depending on the size of the team. But if my team is so big that, you know, things or people are falling through the cracks, then the organization is failing. And then the organization is setting me up for failure as a manager, and now I'm failing the team, and now the team. So it's this whole cascading effect that happens. And so as much as possible, I would try to take that feedback and I would give it to my management and say, hey, you know, this structure is not working. Can we do something about it? Again, it's not always possible, but you know, it's my job to help kind of make as many adjustments as possible to keep my team happy and keep them engaged. Thanks for checking that out. I hope that you found it helpful. I always appreciate feedback, so please let me know what you think. I appreciate any subscriptions, so please tell your friends and colleagues about it as well. Check out the website techinterview.guide for more information about when I'm live streaming and all of my free content. Drop by a live stream anytime to ask questions or message me privately, whatever makes you most comfortable. See you next time.